Maddy Shine, who is a UKWA member and an SEO expert who's been working with wedding businesses for 14 years. So really, really knows the industry inside out. She's come recommended left, right, and centre. So many people had said, "Can you get Maddy on for a webinar?" So absolutely delighted that she's doing our very first webinar. So Maddy, over to you.
Thank you so much, Alison. It's wonderful to be here and to see some familiar faces and to see some new ones as well. Hello. So today I'm going to be talking to you about SEO. I know what you're thinking. SEO, pretty dry topic, pretty dry. However, by the end of today, my goal is to help you feel more motivated, more inspired, and even if you do just a couple of the things that I suggest in today's workshop, then you will see changes in your SEO. A bold statement, but one I stand by. So, today I will be talking to you all about how to get your wedding websites actually more visible to more people who are likely to book you. It's incredibly easy to get websites visible, but to visible to the right people, that's the secret. So, let's get started. So, what we're going to cover today is why your wedding business isn't showing up on page one of Google yet, what Google actually wants from your website, because it's, let's face it, forever changing, particularly with, and this is the next point, how to show up in AI tools like ChatGPT and Google's own AI search, that bit at the top of Google search that's now appearing. I'm also going to talk to you about how to turn your actual pages into content your couples cannot ignore. I think so often, and I see this particularly in the wedding industry, you have beautiful websites with stunning images, and what you do is think, well, images speak for themselves. Well, unfortunately, pictures do not speak 1,000 words. So actually, we need to use words as well, and the right words as well. I'm going to show you how to take those first steps to go from Google hates me, I feel invisible, to actually being fully booked. And then at the end, we'll do a Q&A. Now, what I really want to say about the Q&A is pop your questions in the chat window, as Alison said, and then we'll go through them at the end. If there's any questions that you're thinking, oh, I'm too embarrassed to ask that, or maybe this is too big a question for a workshop, don't worry about that. Let me handle that, okay? No question too silly or too small or too big, okay? So what I want to hear from you in the chat window, let's get started. Alison and Nikita, you can join as well if you like. This is tell me the number that you resonate with the most. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, or 7. So number one, you're tinkering with your website and, sort your SEO is on your to-do list, but you're not really sure if you're moving in a clear direction. Number two, you Google your business name and you think, well, I'm on page one. And you think, well, what else is there? Like, how else do I get on page one? Number three, what on earth do those numbers mean? If you look at anything like Google Analytics, Google Search Console, any of those stats that come through every month from Google, you're thinking, what on earth do those numbers mean? Number four, why are my competitors ranking above me? Hello, I'm clearly a better service. I'm clearly deliver better images or better whatever offers you offer. Number five, directory is expensive and you feel frustrated with the quality of the inquiries coming through from them, and yet they seem to dominate the search engine rankings. Number six, referrals are great, but they can't be relied upon. Okay. And number seven, you've got beautiful branding, but you still feel invisible. Do you resonate with any of those? Tell me in the chat window with the number. Let me have a look. Hello, Bernadette. Nice to see you too. Alison, number four, why are competitors ranking above me? Yeah. Yeah. Anyone else? Vim, number four as well. Okay. Yeah. I think this is honestly such a common one. Bernadette, three. Yeah. What on earth do those numbers mean? Yeah. I hear you. I hear you. So we're going to be covering little bits of these, introducing you to where to get started with tackling these problems today. So I just want to check that this isn't the right workshop for you if you don't care about getting more couples onto your website. If you want to do any kind of shady SEO work and don't care if Google finds out, honestly, I see this still a lot. You need all this done like yesterday. I'm sorry, that's not how SEO and marketing works. And to be honest, you're quite cynical that SEO would even work for your type of wedding business. I don't think anyone's like that here. I just wanted to check because I used to get people showing up to my workshops years ago who was like, I don't really think SEO is going to work for me, to be honest. And I was like, well, this is just a waste of your time just being here. I don't really get it. Anyway, so let us dive in. For those of you who don't know me, hello, I'm Maddy Shine. I designed my first website 26 whole years ago. I was a teenage nerd. My dad gave me a subdomain of his website. This was in the late 90s. I can't believe it was that long ago, but here we are. So I have been chronically online for a long time. I have worked in the wedding industry since 2012, and some of you I think I've known since that year, which is quite amazing. And I have now expanded, so I work with all different types of women-led and queer-owned businesses, but I've always worked with wedding businesses that whole time. I'm a proud aunt and I'm child-free by choice. Dogs and cats, please don't make me choose. I adore them all. I'm always wandering up to dogs in pubs and cuddling them, and I walk dogs in my local area. I adore it. And yeah, like I said, I work with women and queer-owned businesses like photographers, venues, cake makers, celebrants, and creatives who are brilliant at what they do, but they feel completely invisible online. I live in southeast London, Crystal Palace, and I host a local meetup community here called Pints and Purpose, which is for women and queer entrepreneurs to meet up in local pubs in this neighbourhood. And I'm very proud to host that community. So if we're not yet connected on Instagram, please do come and say hello. It would be lovely to hear from you. I'm Maddy.Shine. And fun fact, over 800 million people around the world have seen this space because I have my own gifts. I learnt how to make them in lockdown. They went viral. I use them, of course, in my own marketing. And before you ask, no, I don't earn any money from them. But that's not always the point, is it? It was to cheer people up in lockdown. And my goodness, did it cheer people up. I've been featured on the New Zealand news. Celebrities have used my gifts. It's really fun to be spotted out there. So, before I dive into my advice, I wanted to show you some proof. It's all very well and good me saying I'm amazing, but here's this brilliant celebrant that I worked with recently. So Maya is a celebrant here in South London. She was on page 5 of Google before we started working together. And within a few weeks, she was ranking in the top 10 on Google, and more inquiries were coming through from Google compared to this time last year. In fact, a family came, so she does naming, weddings, and funerals. And a family came via word of mouth, but seeing her at the top of page 1 confirmed they made the right choice to book her. And she told me I wasn't expecting it to feel like such an empowering process, which I just makes my heart very happy. So I get it. SEO is frustrating. You've built something beautiful, but your website feels like an empty art gallery with no visitors. And I consider SEO is the map to find it. So how does Google work? Well, there's 3 basic factors. It needs to find you, it needs to understand you, and it needs to show you. So what we're doing is the reason we're not getting found on Google at the moment is because we're not telling the people what they need to know. So Google can't find us. So people can't find us. And because people can't find us, Google can't find us. And so the vicious cycle continues. And then we're not saying the right things in the right way, in the right spots on our website and around the internet. So Google can't understand us. They think we're trying to cover too many bases, or they think we're not covering enough bases. They don't see us as an expert in what we do. And then they can't show us. So we're not telling Google and AI what they need to know, so they can't show us to people who need to know about us. So with these 3 factors in mind, then we can start to say, okay, how do we fix that? Because don't panic, this is all very fixable. Otherwise, I wouldn't have a job. Okay, so I can just hear someone's not muted, so do make sure just you're muted. So I have 4 pillars of my Kickstart framework. This is the framework that I use with all my clients. So whether you work with me on my Kickstart package, which is where I audit your website, create a bespoke strategy for you, and then give you the tutorials and everything so you can do it yourself, or whether you work with me on Retainer, where I still start out with doing this Kickstart audit and creating the strategy, I always use these 4 pillars. So the first one is front of house. Now, with front of house, it's all about what the public can see, right? So, what do you do? What do you sell? What do you make? What do you create? What do you deliver? So, what type of services do you offer? If it's wedding photography, wedding flowers, if you're a wedding venue, wedding celebrant, or a cake maker, specifically what kind of services do you offer? If you're a wedding photographer, then do you offer elopement? Do you offer intimate weddings? You have to start thinking about it in really specific terms. And then you need to start thinking about where do you sell it? What geographic locations do you cover? If it's just online, then you also need to think about that as well. But which cities, which towns, which counties do you deliver to? Do you travel to? And if you're thinking, well, I'm UK wide, I'm happy to go wherever, that will obviously, write that down as well. But you also need to think about, well, where are my favorite places to go? Where do I want to start? Because getting specific will make this whole job of SEO so much easier. And then you need to start thinking about describing what you sell. So you've got what you do and where you do it. Well, how do you do it? What's your niche? Because this will make it, again, so much easier to target your customers. So whether that's intimate or luxury or relaxed or outdoor or barn or whatever it is, then you can start looking at all those different unique ways to describe what you sell, because then you start combining those words and phrases to create quite a long, juicy list of potential phrases. For example, you're an elopement wedding photographer in Cornwall, or you're a luxury wedding venue in Yorkshire. And what you'll find is that that list grows. It's not a set number of keywords you have to have. It's nothing like that, but you can start to look at all these different variations. And I'm sure that as you're digesting what I'm teaching today, then and start looking back at those notes, or maybe they disappear under the pile on your desk for a couple of weeks, and you come back to it and you think, oh yes, I've got to have a bit of more of a brainwave. What people actually tell me is they keep a post-it note by the bed so they can suddenly, they suddenly get an idea when they're unwinding in the evening. So once you've got this list, what do you do with it? Well, there's a really cool budget-friendly tool called Keywords Everywhere, and you can install this as a Chrome extension. So it's about $7 a month, so very budget friendly. And then you can set your target country to the UK or wherever you're targeting. As with this is the UK Wedding Association, I'm guessing this is you're targeting the UK. And then what you do is you type in each of those phrases from your long, juicy list into just Google search bar. And then it will give you, as you can see from the screenshots, a volume, that first number on the left-hand side, volume. And that is the approximate number of people a month who are in the UK searching for that keyword term. And that can fluctuate, of course, closer to Christmas, Christmas-related terms are more popular, as you can imagine, or closer to Easter or, summer or whatever it is. And so you'll see the demand fluctuate throughout the year, but you have to have a starting point. So then what you can do is with that long, juicy list, you write down the demand for each of those different phrases. And so with my clients, I do all this work for you. I have fancier tools, which are a bit more expensive. That's why I don't recommend them usually, unless you're an SEO expert. And so I find the right keywords for you and then match them up to your pages. But this is such a good starting point. And then you can see, oh, I thought I'd be, I was working with an illustrator a while ago and she said, oh, I totally thought that they would say, wedding flower illustrations. And actually what they was, so she thought they were saying botanical illustrations. And actually what they were saying was wedding bouquet illustrations. So she changed her SEO strategy accordingly. And my goodness, her Google traffic took off. So when you have these keyword phrases, what do you do? What do you do with them all? Do you start just jamming them in? No, you need to match a phrase to each page of your website. This is such a good foundation because it really helps focus the point of each of the pages on your website. Now, I'm not talking about your contact page because you don't need to optimize that, but I'm talking about your service pages, your sales pages, your home page. So then once you've started kind of matching up the pages of your website, and you may well find that you need to create new pages. That's quite often the case when I work with clients. Then what you need to do is then start adding the keywords to specific places on those pages. So let's say you have a page about elopement wedding photography in Cornwall. You would then add that phrase to the page title, which is known as your heading one. You would also add it to the first paragraph of text on the page. You would add it at least one other time on the page, depending on the length of text. Sometimes you've already got quite a juicy text-filled page, but not my experience in the wedding industry. But yeah, at least one other time on the page. And then for any images, you need to include it in the image name. If it's not a graphic, if it's a one of the elopement photos, and also in the alt text. So alt text is describing what's in the image. Now, no matter whether you've got a WordPress, Squarespace, or Wix website, then there's, thanks to lockdown, they were all really invested in their SEO kind of back end. So there are brilliant, boxes and tools and things like that. So to really help you with this, but you need to know the foundational knowledge to then kind of build on that, okay? Because otherwise you'll just be plugging in about as your keyword for your about page, and that is not going to help you get found. You also need to put your keyword phrase in the SEO title and SEO meta description. Now that is the text that appears in Google search results. That's all that long list of text underneath Google Maps and underneath Google Ads. So what we also want to do is also want to put the keyword phrase in there. So of course, then it's more clickable, it's more relevant, and Google will say, this page is talking about elopement wedding photography in Cornwall. Maybe we should show them to more people who are searching for that service. Let me just take a sip. So this is everyone's least favorite thing. Usually I'm going to be very unpopular now, but yes, you need to be blogging. A lot of people I keep saying, blogging's making a comeback, and what about Substack and all this kind of thing. But you need to be sharing your weddings on your blog. You need to be talking about your advice and sharing your expertise. You cannot wait for people to get in touch because it's going to be chicken and egg. Okay. You need to be sharing that advice. You need to be luring people in because you all have a ton of wisdom in your brains and you're not going to get out into blogs. So no, there is no set number of blogs you need to write, but you need to tell people stories about what you sell, about your news, about why they need what you sell, how to use it, making them feel something. Particularly in the wedding industry, we want them to feel part of your world. And don't worry if you feel, oh my God, I'm not a good writer, because your mid content is someone else's, oh my God, amazing. So you can then use that keyword checklist that I just shared on the previous slide to support you with putting those ideas and concepts into the right places. When you work with me as a client, then I come up with a whole bunch of blog ideas and I give you blog templates and a blog checklist and all that jazz. But this is a really good foundation. What I highly recommend you do is if you're thinking, okay, where do I start with finding these blog ideas? Then there's two brilliant tools. If you install that keywords everywhere that I was just talking about, then it'll also give you the box on the right. Long questions that you can treat as blog titles, questions to ask your elopement photographer, an elopement questionnaire, and so on and so on. But also halfway down Google search results, if you don't want to pay, is this box, people also ask. And those are all blog titles too. Now, when you're thinking, okay, but they're not all relevant to me, fine, choose the ones that are. It's a really, really easy way, and quick and easy way to find more blog ideas. Now, I know this is the burning topic that everybody wants to talk about, the AI bit. How are we going to get found by those robot overlords? Well, AI is not an entirely new strategy. Okay, you don't have to throw out everything that you ever thought you knew or did know or already practiced with SEO. AI is just being super clear with all of this stuff, plus a few extra bits. So you need to be specific about your niche and your expertise. Well, we've already covered that. You need to give answers quickly. Well, you can do that with your blogs. And then there's also a couple of other bits. There's something called schema markup. So this is special hidden code that helps AI understand your pages. And there's loads of free tools out there that can generate your schema. You can ask Claude if you're, basically if you go into Claude AI and say, right, what do you need from me to write schema for this page if I want to sell X, Y, Z? But also, what you can do is add FAQ sections on each of your sales or service pages because AI blooming loves a direct question and answer because people do. We love a quick answer to a question. It's also the way that you start appearing in that Google AI search bit at the top, as well as being recommended on tools like ChatGPT. You also need to be adding headings and subheadings to your blog and not just one strip of text. And also you need to be adding internal links between pages, between blogs. So let's say you are blogging a latest elopement that you photographed, then you could link to elopement advice blogs that you've shared, or you could link to other elopements that you photographed and shared about on your blog. You could link to, in fact, do link to your elopement photography sales page and link to your contact page, check your availability. By adding these internal links, we're being helpful. And when we're helpful, people love it, Google loves it, and so does AI. And so a happy client result as a result of doing this work, Fiona Kelly Photography, she's a wedding, brand, family, and couples photographer based near me here in South London. And she started showing up in Google, Gemini, and ChatGPT within a month of us making these changes for her. So I wanted to kind of add a little bit more detail about Fiona. Fiona is a wedding engagement and proposal photographer. We made some changes to her website, and like I said, 1 month later, she's now showing up in Google Gemini and being found on ChatGPT. And she said, I can highly recommend working with Maddy for your SEO, especially with AI searches becoming more of a way that businesses are found win. See, what we might not do it, but what our couples and clients are doing is using tools like ChatGPT as a search engine. So we really want to start getting recommended on there. So we've covered front of house. Now it's on to neighbours and cheerleaders, the second pillar in my Kickstart framework. What are your neighbours up to? Now, this might be a little bit, oh, what are we, do we really want to go down this road of comparing ourselves to our competitors? But let's face it, we do Google this anyway. So you Google what you do and where you do it, and you look at the top 3 results. What do those competitors say? What do those page titles say? How many words do they rank for? Where are they getting their backlinks from? These are all things that I do for my clients, but they're things that you can do. And I'll show you in just a minute where to get started with that. Are they on Hitched and Bridebook and all the directories that you haven't actually claimed yet? Are they featured on podcasts and wedding blogs or regional press? That's your opportunity list. Now, I like to think of it as not kind of getting lost in comparisonitis, but actually sort of a wish list of places to pitch to. Because with my clients, I do this research for you so you don't have to spend hours going down the rabbit hole. But here's how to get started. This is a brilliant free tool. So it's called Ahrefs Backlink Checker. And that's the link for it just at the top there. So feel free to screenshot this. And what you do first is you put your website in and get your score out of 100 and then make a note. Then you add your competitor websites one by one to get their score out of 100. Now, this isn't something given by Google. This is just a comparing tool, okay, given by Ahrefs. Because then it will give you, as you can see in the screenshot, a list of their top backlinks. If their score is higher than yours, you need to add these links to a wish list for you. And then you need to start working on getting yourself featured and listed on those websites to get a backlink. When you are going through this process, this is I would say, one of the long-term kind of goals. And you can just chip away at that a little bit every month and add those backlinks. But then, so we're looking at our neighbours, but we also want to find our cheerleaders. We need the internet to vouch for us. So your network, and I know wedding businesses are particularly good at this, your network is a goldmine of linking opportunities. So who can you collab with where it's beneficial to you both? So maybe as a celebrant, you could work with venues and write a blog on their blog. It's free content for the venue, particularly where you have already a good relationship. But if you are guest blogging for each other, do not swap the same content. Do not copy and paste the same blog on both your websites, because then it technically competes with each other, and you don't want that to happen. You want to give unique content on each other's blogs. And then what you can actually do is start making a list of all the people in your network that you love to work with, the venues, the photographers, the cake makers, the celebrants, the planners, whoever it is. And then you can use that Ahrefs backlink tool that I just showed you to check if it's a good opportunity. Do they have a higher score than you? In that case, prioritize collabing with them. You can start to make a list of industry directories, local directories to you. They don't have to be wedding specific. Look at local press opportunities, industry press, and again, use the Ahrefs tool to check if it's a good opportunity. Because AI bloomin' loves a well-linked website because people do. It all goes into that know, like, and trust factor. Because if we are signposted all around the internet, then that just goes to show that the internet is vouching for us and that we are a quality business. So then we come to the third pillar of my Kickstart framework, behind the scenes. So this is tackling those, what on earth do those numbers mean if we do even look at them from Google? So first of all, we need to tell Google that you exist. Google does not automatically know about your website, I'm sorry. So you need to give Google a map of your website. You need to see which pages Google can and can't see. And you need to find out how people are Googling and clicking on you. And this is available to anyone with a Gmail address. It's free. Google loves it when we use their tools, so it will reward us for it. So this is where you get started with giving Google a map of your website. So to find your sitemap, to find the map of your website, it'll be your website / sitemap.xml or your website / sitemap _ index.xml. And it will just revert to whichever one is correct. And it will look something like this. It might look quite different for you, but basically you'll find something no matter what website platform you have, whether it's WordPress, Squarespace, or Wix. And you'll see something that looks like this. So then whichever version it is, then you take that link and you go and get set up with a free account on Google Search Console. Now, that's when you paste in the correct ending there. You can see where it says enter sitemap URL right in the middle of the screen there. And then what you do is you click then submit, that gray button on the right. And then what you want to happen is for Google to come and have a look at your website. And it will come and have a look at, okay, what's your website about? Where should we slot you into search results? And all of that kind of jazz. Because then the more you do that, the more you update your website, the more you, with your clear strategy, the more you come and submit your map here, then it will say, you'll see under last read, it will have a recent, more recent date because Google will actually come and do this on its own as well. But I do this for my clients and myself every Monday, just out of habit, because it's good practice to get into. But then Google will also tell us a whole bunch of other information, like, for example, which pages it can and can't see. So with this particular website example, I've kept them anonymous. If it says in green how many pages it can see, that's called indexed, and how many pages it can't see, that's called not indexed. And it's very common for Google to not see a whole bunch of pages, particularly if you've changed strategy, you've been around a while, you'll have lots and lots of page links, which actually you don't want the public to see. Maybe they don't exist anymore. But what you can do, and I don't have time to cover it in the workshop today, but I do this work if you become a client, then I look into why they are not being indexed and what you can do about it and how to fix it. But it is very common. So if you do see that, don't panic. Now, the next thing behind the scenes is how fast is your website? Because who waits around for a website to load up? I don't think I do, and I don't think you do either. So there's a brilliant tool called gtmetrics.com. And there's loads of tools that do this, but this is my personal favorite because I get a grade. I do well with grades. I was a teacher's pet. And basically, it will give you a grade. As you can see, I've got B. I've got a green B. And basically, if this is green, this is not a priority for you to fix unless when you check your competitor websites in the same tool, unless they all have grade A. Okay, now if you had like a red letter there, then you think, okay, I actually need to do something about this. But to be honest, the biggest culprit, particularly with your gorgeous visual websites with nice big images, is because you haven't loaded your images in an appropriate size. What you've done is you've got your images straight from the photographer and you haven't resized them or anything. You're like, yeah, that's cool, and added them to your website. And actually, the images are like 4,000 pixels wide and they only need to be maximum 2,000 pixels wide. And that's even for a full screen image. If it's smaller, if it's, for example, blogs, it only needs to be like 1,200 pixels wide. So what you can do then is actually resize the images before you upload them to your website. And that way you should speed up your website loading speed. You can always then retest after you've done this, Tim, if you have got a bad grade. But again, I clarify this if you become a client. So we've done three pillars. Now we're on to the fourth and final pillar. Let me take a sip. Okay, but is it working though? I think this is the vital step that a lot of people kind of go, well, I've done things. And I'm like, is it working? They're like, I don't know. So this is where you can actually have a look, bit of a deeper dive into those numbers. For example, let's go back to our new friend, Google Search Console. Not only can you submit a map of your website and tell Google that you exist, so it can tell people you exist, and not only does it tell you which pages it can and can't see, but also it tells you which keywords you're appearing for in Google search results. Now, this doesn't include social media or, Google Business or anything like that. It only includes Google search results. And it also doesn't include every single keyword you rank for. It just includes the keywords that people were Googling and that you appeared for. So this is for my client, Treadwell Manor. They're a Cornwall wedding venue. And you can see here, I'm just focusing on the second from the right column, clicks. How many clicks they got from Google search results. So understandably, their brand name is the top one, and that is incredibly common. And variations of their brand name you can also see in that list. But what we really want is terms like wedding venues Cornwall, Cornwall wedding venues, and variations on that, so that we can actually see, okay, those are those larger demand ones. Yes, people know about the brand, but we also want them to be searching for what they sell. And they're a wedding venue in Cornwall. So, good thing they're coming up for that search and they're getting lots and lots of clicks through it. The second tool that I want to show you is Google Analytics. Now, a lot of people are like, Maddie, I don't even look at my analytics. Please don't tell me off. I seem to have earned this headmistress reputation sometimes, I think. But honestly, there's just a couple of graphs that you need to look at with Google Analytics. And so you don't actually need to like dive deep into it or anything like that. Just these two graphs are going to really help you have this foundational knowledge. So this first one, this is something that you see as soon as you log into Google Analytics. So you'll see users, that's the number of people clicking on your website, and that can be from anywhere. Email, social media, other people's websites, guides for brides. It can be from Google search results, from Google Business, from any of those. And then new users is really key to understand because particularly if you've been running a special campaign, or if you've been doing a launch or anything like that, or if you've been putting particular hard work into a particular platform, it's really good to see, okay, what's my percentage of new users as opposed to people who are returning. And then we also want to have a look at that average engagement time. And that's how long is the average visit to your website. Now, this used to be, you might have heard the term bounce rate at some point in running your business when learning about SEO before. And you might be thinking, okay, wasn't that a big factor? It's not as much of a factor anymore, which is why I wanted to highlight it. So this average engagement time, how long is the average visit? It's not as long as it used to be because of AI search and because AI is scraping the content and showing it above the Google search results. And also because people nip in, get the answer and get out. So what we want to do is actually sometimes pay more attention to that because we want to keep them around. It's just is not as much of an SEO factor as it used to be. And then this is the other graph that I wanted to show you. Again, it's right there on the homepage of Google Analytics. Where are your new users coming from? And what on earth does this chart mean? Well, This chart will look different for everybody. There isn't a set number, okay? And the order will change as you work on different platforms, as you work hard on getting your getting traffic from all over. So direct, the top of that list is people typing in your website. It may be a link in personal emails versus email newsletters. Um, Email newsletters is usually listed separately, but it's not on this particular client example. It's also any clicks from Google Business or Google Maps, and include actually anything else that isn't already listed below. Referral traffic is any clicks, any users coming from other sites, including Guides for Brides and other directories, including actually it counts social media there now as well, quite annoyingly because we've got organic social directly below. It's not specific, which is why you can actually click through just under this graph to get more details. But as an overview, this is such a good way of kind of going, okay, this is good. My social media efforts are paying off. So organic social is Facebook, Instagram, but not any paid ads. And then, of course, paid social is if you're running Facebook or Instagram ads. And then organic search is appearing on Google or any other search engine. So Bing, DuckDuckGo, Ecosia, whatever the search engines are. And now AI is starting to become a source listed on its own because at the moment it's sort of being mixed up in there. But what you'll find is as you're working more on your SEO strategy, as a result of this workshop, you will see, hopefully, AI traffic coming in. So when you click through and find out more details from this graph, then you can actually see, oh yeah, there's ChatGPT listed. But I cannot iterate enough. This list will look different for everybody, different order, different numbers. So do not compare yourself to this. The other Google tool that I love to harp on about is Google Business, or otherwise known as Google Maps or Google My Business. So this, you'll have all seen it. It appears at the top of Google search. You'll see a map section with three websites, three businesses listed there. So what you can really do to try and get there, if you're not already there, is you need to collect reviews from every couple, every client that you work with. You need to treat it like a social media platform. You can add posts in there just like you can with social media. You can add photos, a very easy win for your beautiful visual businesses. You can even add special offers. You can add events in there, all to boost your visibility. You can make sure your contact details are correct, your hours, make sure your social media links are added in there. And this works even if you work from home, because I do too, as you can see, this is my living room. So you can just change in the settings on Google Business, you can hide your address and simply add service areas. So it goes back to right that first slide, the front of house, which areas do you serve? And you can add those locations in there. AI bloody loves it because it's a quick answer, it's an easy win, and the more you put into it, then the more you're going to be rewarded because Google loves it when we use their tools. And then you're probably thinking, okay, but how do I, if I put all this work into the keywords, how do I know if it's actually paying off? Well, Google Search Console is useful, but it doesn't track everything that we rank for. So there's actually, I use other SEO tools, but this one I thought was really budget friendly. So I've had a little go with it and I've now started recommending it to clients and in workshops like this. It's called keyssearch.co. And what you can do is upload that lovely juicy list that you created in the front of house pillar. And you can then track your rankings each month. So it's approximately $20 a month. And then it will tell you where on Google that you are. So if you've got position 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, or 7, congratulations, you're on page 1 of Google. And if you're positions 8 to 16, you're on page 2 of Google. And what's really cool to see, we might have different definitions of cool, but what's cool in my mind is cool to see that if you're on page 2 of Google for any of those keywords, you're thinking, I really want to get onto page 1 for elopement wedding photography. I don't know why I keep using that example, but let's go with it. Then actually, then what you can do is start blogging about elopement wedding photography, advice, client stories, weddings that you photographed. And then that will give it a nice, easy win to boost up. So if you start using this and see any keywords on page 2, that's a great way to boost to page 1. And the result of doing this hard work, well, I've shared a couple of examples, but this is Heine. She's a cake maker in the East Midlands. And she had, oh, got a typo there. She had 19 bookings in all of 2025, but then she booked my Done For You package, which is called Shine. And then the first 3 months of 2026, she had 15 bookings. So it's a massive increase. Plus, she's already got bookings coming in for 2027. So she's seen a 216% projected increase in bookings just from SEO, which is absolutely brilliant. I'm so, so pleased for her. So you need a bespoke plan for you. I can give you the framework, but I can't tell you which keywords belong on your wedding photography pages, or what your florist competitors are doing that you're not, or what your website needs fixing first, or what content your ideal couples are searching for right now. So that's what I do with my clients. I build it around your business. So I'm not going to hard sell to you, don't worry, but these are the two ways to work with me. So I've got Kickstart, which is 1,500, and you pay in 2 installments. I create a bespoke SEO strategy for you. So I do the research and then give you the plan with checklists and templates and video tutorials. And then you action at your own pace. And then I've also got Shine, which is from £800 a month for 6 months at a time. And this is Done For You SEO. So I handle everything and you can focus on the weddings. So both are built around your business, your couples, your corner of the wedding industry. And you can come to my website or send me a DM on Instagram, maddyshine.co.uk, and it'd be great to hear from you. So if you want to have a chat about my services, let me know. But otherwise, I'd love to hear any questions. Type them in the chat window.